Hello and welcome to your first flip lesson on leadership theory in activity, sport and coaching. So we'll be looking at the following. So looking at some of these examples of coaching, we've got Rapinoe here, the captain of the USA team, so Dave Brailsford. Pep, we've got Maresma, who is Andy Murray's coach, Katrina McAllister of Jersey Sport, and then we've got John Danaher of the Danaher Death Squad. Obviously you have to get a jiu-jitsu reference in there. So trait theory assumes that people have certain qualities or may have inherited them or grown up with them, for example, developed them from within their environment, and these what make them excellent leaders. However, immediately we have to ask the question that if certain traits such as confidence, communication, empathy, if these are the key features of leadership, then what about people who have all those qualities but aren't leaders? Now this theory is based around the personality theory of Eysenck and Eysenck. Now some of you may have done this in psychology of sport on level 3 or within A level. So this is where you usually take a test and it tells you whereabouts you are on this scale. And then depending where you were, with the leadership theory, it would be like, oh, if you have all these good traits, then you'd be a good leader. And that's actually usually round about in this red area here. Sociable, outgoing, easygoing, lively, carefree, leadership. So usually if you're around there, it would make you a good leader. So trait theory suggests that individual personalities are composed of broad dispositions. So everyone is different, but if you have a good combination of certain traits, it will make you a good or great leader. So if you were to describe the person next to you, you might say they're outgoing, kind, even-tempered. Immediately, they're good traits to begin with for a leader. So it's thought of as relatively stable, which means it doesn't really change. So a person who is easygoing most of the time will be easygoing in most situations. So, or a person who is confident in everyday life will be confident in a leadership situation. So that's what stable means. It doesn't really change too much based on the situation. So it's like we said, it is all about people being individuals and how they interact to form a personality and to say whether that makes a good leader or not. So for example, if someone wasn't confident but was a great communicator, had great knowledge of their activity or sport, that might make them a better leader than someone who's really confident but had poor knowledge of their sport and was a poor communicator. So here are some of the key traits that we would traditionally associate with great leadership: being smart, being good with people, being able to make decisions in a timely manner, being creative, so having good problem-solving skills, being good at their job and knowing about it, and also being trustworthy and reliable. Now it comes from Allport's theory. He looked up 4,000 different traits and then categorized them into 3 different levels. The first being the most important, which is Cardinal. Now these are the dominant traits that tend to develop a bit later in life, but it's what a leader becomes renowned for. So that might be Pep with his tactical intelligence, or it might be John Danaher's calm and calculated way he communicates. So these are the cardinal traits. They're quite rare and they tend to develop later in life. The next are the central traits, often referred to as core traits, very similar to Martin's schematic theory, which you may have covered in level 3 or A level. And these are the foundations. Not as dominating as Cardinal, but they're kind of the major characteristics that make up a person. So if you were to think about yourself, which key terms would make up you? Are you intelligent, honest, shy, anxious, confident? Which central traits make you up? And then finally are the secondary traits. Now these are known to be situational. So they are often related to the attitudes and preferences of a person and often only come out in certain situations. So for example, if you might be fine coaching one-to-one, but once you coach someone in a group, you might get a little bit anxious. So these kind of come out depending on the situation. So the jury's out on this theory. It's quite a dated theory, and it's been found that they're often poor predictors of behaviour. So even though someone might score high on a confidence trait on a basic test, if you put them in a different situation, they might not be as confident. So if I ask someone who's a really confident football coach to go take a climbing session, obviously they're not going to be that confident because they don't know what they're doing, and that actually might lead to a very dangerous situation. So even in 1948, this gentleman Stogdill, I think it's Arthur Stogdill, he found that from all the different leadership trait studies that were going on at the time, found only 2 of the traits actually were possessed by all leaders. And this usually came from knowledge or competency and the ability to communicate. So while they're kind of helpful, not all of them are really necessary. So for example, if you were doing the basics of knot tying in climbing, there's only one specific recognised way it could be done. So therefore being creative and coming up with your own knot and teaching that to other people isn't going to be useful, and in fact could be dangerous. So the next theory is situational theory, and this is proposed that leaders kind of change their actions or behaviours based on the situation and what it demands. So for example, if we see a PE teacher here, not only will he have to be delegating and giving them the responsibility to come up with their own games or tasks, but he's also going to have to offer pastoral care and also be on the lookout to make sure everyone's interacting properly, giving praise, and ensuring that these kids are not only learning about the skill and task, but also just through the principles of education as well. And that takes us on to our next theory, which is transformational. So this is a real focus on the connection between the leader and the followers. It's rather than looking at the leader themselves and how well they perform and the group performs, it's combining the two. So transformational leader is all about motivating and inspiring his group. He wants them to see him or her to see the importance and the higher good of the task. So they're really focused on the performance of the group members. How is each one interacting? Are they fulfilling their full potential and working to the best of their ability? So often have high ethical and moral standards. They want everyone treated fairly, everyone with equal opportunity, and this often suits kind of the role of a kind of probably a PE teacher. I would say, a teacher probably has this leadership theory underpinning the majority of their leadership. And a sporting example, we've got Judy Murray here, coaching a young Andy Murray, who also looks like the kid from Game of Thrones. As he grew up, she coached them him and his brother, as they were kids before they became professionals, where she then handed over the reins to more elite coaches. But she was also always focused on making sure that Andy was kind of fulfilling his full potential, happy in what he was doing, and also giving him the responsibility to figure out how he trains best and how he performs best. So here are the 4 corners. Inspirational motivation. So is the leader really giving the followers something to inspire them? Are they stimulated? Is the task kind of giving them a set challenge? Because if it's really easy, then there's no point. If, for example, you've given elite footballers the challenge of just hitting a 3-yard short pass over and over again, it's not going to be stimulating. And if you don't change it quite quickly, you're going to lose the motivation of your followers. Have you considered each individual? So for example, if you're taking a group that's got lots of mixed abilities, if you've asked everyone, for example, to complete a Fosbury flop high jump, not everyone in that group is going to be able to do that. And the challenge is going to be too far for them. The next is, let's try that again, idealized influence. So are you giving the correct ideals and influencing them in the correct way? So like we said here, intellectual, so you're giving them a challenge, you're getting them to explore new ways and giving them new opportunities. So again, you're meeting their needs through individualized consideration, and you're keeping communication open. So they can also talk back to you and say, well, this is too much of a challenge, or this is too easy. And then you recognize the contribution of each one and how well each one is doing. So again, we talked about inspiring, having a clear vision, and this then, if you have a set goal, this then allows your followers to know what they need to do to meet that goal. So whether it's a team goal or an individual goal, having both will really connect your followers with your leaders. And finally is these talk of idealization. So you're being a role model for your followers. They trust and respect you. So as a coach, you kind of need to make sure you've got a safe environment, not only physically, but also pastorally and emotionally. So you're making sure that there's no, for example, bullying or psychological bullying, or you're picking up on any signs and you can stamp that out early on. And this creates a real feeling of community and trust within your group. And if you show that as a role model, then your followers will also emulate that as well. And that's it. So what you need to do for the lesson is I want you guys to reflect on the last activity you saw being led, and which theory of leadership kind of underpinned it or justified what you saw. So for example, if you saw a swimming lesson to a load of 5-year-olds and it was very regimented, very command task, then that may be more situational. Or if you saw someone giving a fantastic speech at half time, that might be trait-based. They might be having the trait of being inspirational. Or you may have seen a PE lesson or a coach adjusting the needs and meeting the needs of everyone in that group. So really being underpinned by that transformational theory. Okay, look forward to seeing you in lesson. And finally, here is the references that you can also use and look up that will then help you in your assignment when it comes to the end of the unit. All right, thank you for listening. I'll see you guys in class. Here's trait, situational, and transformational.